I can't say it loud. It
And
does. And
they
it's
would
that
like
one.
to know
There's
whether
nothing that
we
might-
would object to them not recording. We're good. And we record these.
Good evening, everyone. I want to call to order the Public Safety Committee meeting of May 4th. Can I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Schreiber.
Here.
Placido.
Here.
Bowman.
Here.
Spiegelman.
Here.
Kalamazoo.
Here.
Thank you very much. And now we're going to have a motion to approve the minutes of the April 6, 2016 Public Safety Committee meeting, and I so move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Does anybody have any corrections or additions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the minutes have been passed. And now I'd like to call on Chief Kelly, but before I call on Chief Kelly, I wanted to know if you want to tell us about your new position as part of your report tonight. I would like you to, yes. Thank you.
Just a couple things to report on, Madam Chair, members of the committee. May 6th is Police Memorial Ceremony at Montgomery County Courthouse. This happens every year. Just on the calendar, so I want to make sure you knew about that. Closer to home, May 21st is the 24-hour relay challenge coming up. So you want to certainly know about that, since that's such a big event in our community. And then in July, something we have coming up is the CALIA conference in Baltimore, where we will hopefully receive our reaccreditation, and we'll certainly talk to you about that more as that comes up. I believe what you're referring to, Madam Chair, is the position with the Accreditation Commission.
That is correct. And congratulations on it.
At a recent meeting of our accreditation, the Pennsylvania Law Enforcement Accreditation Commission, my colleagues from around the state were kind enough to elect me as chairman of the commission. So I'll be the chairman of the commission for the next 2 years, and I'm very honored. Obviously, it's something that the accreditation process is something I believe in. Certainly, we do here in Abington Police Department, and we were the first police department in the state to get accredited back in 2002, and have continued to get reaccredited since. And needless to say, I'm humbled and honored by the fact that they chose me to do that, along with my duties as the chairman of the executive board of the Pennsylvania Chiefs of Police Association. And the other thing I wanted to tell you about tonight is about the traffic safety blitz, and the winner of the Alfred Lookalike Contest, Lieutenant Pat Malloy, is here to tell you about it.
Yes, on behalf of our traffic safety manager, Officer Freed, who could not be here tonight, our traffic safety blitz begins in June, and it's for the month of June. He wanted me to report to you that the signs will be available May 15th through his office, and I guess he would like the commissioners to distribute them. I know at some point the public would call, but I think he'd rather that go through the commissioners. So if you can contact him, he'd be glad to help you out. Thanks.
And as you know, they're the new signs, very attractive signs, so I'd like to have a little bit of an added initiative to try to get those signs out there and see if we can make somewhat of an impact. At our command meeting today with the other members of the police department's command, we were marveling at how over the last month, virtually everything, every crime category and so on, are all going in the right directions. The one disappointing thing is that crashes are up. Automobile crashes are up. So we have to just keep pressing on that, on the issues of reducing accidents in our township. And the two best ways, of course, are enforcement, which we're doing, and the board has supported us in doing additional enforcement through funding. And in addition to that is consciousness raising, and hopefully programs that where we do that, we'll at least get people for the time being to at least be a little bit more conscious and drive a little bit more safely in our town. And that's all I have for tonight, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I missed one thing you said at the beginning. What's happening May 6th, Chief?
That is the police memorial ceremony at the Montgomery County Courthouse.
That's at noon, you said? You were turned away. You said at noon?
At noon.
Okay. Yeah, I'm up there. Stick around.
Congratulations, Chief, on your new position.
All righty. Any questions from anybody for the chief? And I want to acknowledge that Rich Garrett's here from the Second Alarmers in the back waving to us. People watching TV might not see your wave, but we see it, so thank you.
That can be edited in.
We can put
could
that
have-
in?
we could have
Okay,
that in.
very good. Ken Clark, do you have any report at all that you want to say? Nothing at this time. Okay, thank you, and I know, Rich, you said you didn't as well. Okay, then we will proceed with our agenda. PS1 is a motion to adopt Resolution Number 16020, authorizing and directing the Township Manager to apply and sign forms required by FEMA for snow removal costs associated with Winter Storm Jonas in January 2016, and I so move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions from any of the commissioners? Staff? Audience? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. PS2 is a motion to adopt ordinance number 2118, amending Chapter 156, Vehicles and Traffic, Article 3, Parking Regulations, Section 25, parking prohibited at all times, no parking between signs, no parking here to corner, parking prohibited except certain hours, no stopping or standing at the regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Commissioners on May 12, 2016 at 7:30 p.m., and I so move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments from commissioners, staff, audience?
You go next.
Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. PS3 is a motion to advertise ordinance number 2119, amending Chapter 156, Vehicles and Traffic, Article 2, Traffic Regulations, Section 14, Stop Intersections, and Article 3, Parking Regulations, Section 25, Parking Prohibited at all times, no parking between signs, no parking here to corner, parking prohibited except certain hours, no stopping or standing, for adoption at the regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Commissioners on June 9th, 2016 at 7:30 p.m., and I so move.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments from commissioners? Staff or audience? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. That concludes our formal agenda. Is there any comments about public safety this evening? Commissioner DePlacido?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to mention that naloxone, or better known as Narcan, is now available at Acme or the Save-On pharmacies in Jenkintown.
Thank you for that announcement. Commissioner Kalnowski?
I guess this falls under public safety. On May 15th, I'm having a fundraiser for Charles, the shooting victim from the 7-Eleven there on Limekiln Pike, from 2 to 6, and everyone's welcome to come. And I think it would be really nice. Charles is still in a rehab. He's supposed to be released the 12th of May, and hopefully then he'll be able to make it on the 15th from 2 to 6. We're having hamburgers, hot dogs, drinks, and we're having some fun games for the kids. Heather Jewell from Edge Hill, her husband's a deputy chief at the Edge Hill Firehouse. She's been helping me with this thing really. She's done a great job in putting this together. So if anybody was interested in helping also with that event, you're more than welcome to come out. But everybody, I'd love to see everybody there. The other thing, I was told on Saturday morning from Chief Clark, Kenny Clark here, that the Boyle family on Edge Hill Road had suffered a devastating fire to their home. And Kenny was nice to reach out to me and said they really needed some help. So we've been working on that, and they found out yesterday that the house is a total loss. So they're starting from new, and they have 4 children. And I've gotten a lot of donations from a lot of people in the area, from Glenside, North Hills, Abington, all throughout the Abington community. And I'd really like to thank everybody for that. Michael, the father, he's a 23-year veteran. He's served in 2 wars. He is hearing loss. It's a disability for him. He also works for the post office, so he's a hardworking family man. and Lisa homeschools the children, so they're really putting a lot together. If you're interested in donating, please contact me or go on Facebook. There's a lot of information there where you can reach out to the family. They're a private family, so they really don't want a lot of people interacting with them, but you're more than welcome to. I'll make sure whatever you want to donate or give, I will get to that, or I'll get it to them. And I really appreciate everybody in Abington for all that they've done for the Boyle family. Thank you.
If I could just briefly jump over what Commissioner Kalamowski was saying. As someone who spends a decent amount of time on Facebook, and particularly on the Helping Abington page, I know Commissioner Kalamowski is not really the type to pat himself on the back or take a lot of credit. So I would just like to thank him for all the information that he's been getting out about both of these cases. It's been really useful. He's been just really on top of updating people, and of course having the event for Charlie. So I just want to say thank you.
Thanks.
You're on Facebook?
That's insulting.
It's funny you say that. They just, in the last quarterly report for Facebook, they said that most users average an hour a day on Facebook, and I think the actuality is that probably most people spend 15 minutes, and you've raised everybody else to the average an hour.
That's true.
Any other comments from commissioners, staff, or audience?
Laura Lehman, 1431 Bryant Lane. And our firefighters do an amazing job keeping us safe. We are blessed to have them all. They put their lives on the line for us, which is pretty amazing. My concern is, both for police and fire, when the police who put their lives on the line, the firefighters who put their lives on the line, come around and ask for donations and then have an emergency card, which the comments that I got reflect mine exactly, which we've had for years and years and years, which is, if we don't donate, will our card be in the file? Why is this emergency card necessary if they already have our information? This is a request for a donation, and I thought that we were fairly generous with our police pensions, and I don't know exactly how our firefighter pensions, but I'm concerned about both of them because both our police and our fire folks put their lives on the line for us. But do they not have good pensions? And in the case of this particular Police Pension Association drive, this is also for spouses of deceased officers, and it benefits retired officers. Now, officers maybe who were hurt in the line of duty or had special needs, or spouses with special needs, that's one thing. But, all of us have pensions from our companies, most of us who work from companies. And those of us who are independent, we have to put that money away. And very few people consider going door to door, but the power of having the thought that you might not be in the right file for your police or your fire people if you don't give a donation is what people find wrong, and I also find wrong. So my question would be whether we do have both our fire and our police to try and understand if we feel that they have ample benefits, ample pension benefits, okay, which I thought I understood them to be pretty good. And then the second thing is to have this seriously discussed, not just where I come here and one or two members give their opinions and say what I'm saying is crap, but that what we do is we say somebody's sharing to you what they and others in the township feel, and that you have a serious discussion back with your residents and with each other to determine if something should or could be done. Okay? So I'm asking if that could be considered. I'm also concerned that when, in the last meeting you were there, I believe, when I asked about the fires at the Colonnade, that I cannot get a direct answer on something that simple. Okay, so did we have one fire? Did we have 2 fires at the Colonnade, which is now 100 York, but was formerly the Colonnade? And if we had 1 or 2 fires since then, has the electric been completely replaced there, which was deemed to be faulty by many of the inspectors who
Are
were
you
there?
about to wrap it up? Your time's up.
Okay.
Okay.
And so how I get those answers, I think, is important to my public safety and to the public safety of any citizen who should be able to go to their commissioners and get that answer.
Thank you for your comments.
Can I get an answer? Did we have 1 fire?
After you
or
sit down,
2?
I'll see if anybody has an answer or
And
not.
I have
If
asked,
not,
I am hearing impaired, as you know. I now have hearing aids. I'm still getting
didn't know
them
that.
adjusted. Well, I've told you many times, that I need to stay up at the podium to be able to hear, and from the back, I can't see the faces even of the people
okay, well,
speaking.
if you want to have a seat up front instead of
So-
sitting in the back, you can certainly do that.
Okay, and also, for the sake of understanding, if I don't understand something, if I can stand here, I can ask for it to be repeated.
Well, it's not going to be a debate, so you can have a seat, and if somebody chooses to answer, or they can answer at another time. But as you know, this is not a debate. It's public comment.
I'm asking for questions for comprehension.
And Commissioner Schreiber, I believe the township provides hearing impaired microphones or earphones for residents.
Thank you. Does anyone want to answer that, any of those questions? There was a whole bunch of them, or would you rather talk after the meeting?
I'd be happy to answer at this point. Just to reinforce
Thank
that
you.
this isn't a question and answer opportunity for residents. Just to reinforce, it is public comment, strictly public comment, but I will indulge the speaker. In regard to pensions, our volunteer firemen, we have 5 fire companies in the community, all are completely staffed by volunteers. They're not paid. They do not receive a pension from the township. The police officers, that's full-time employees of the township, do receive a pension through the township in accordance with state law. In regarding the Colonnade, there was 1 fire incident at the last month there at the Colonnade. That's the only one that I am aware of.
Thank you. Mr. Bell, did you have comments?
Yes.
You want to come on up and give your name and address, please?
Raymond Bell, 2076 Parkview Avenue. I participated in the Citizens Police Academy program 2016 recently, and wanted to provide some comments to this committee. First, I want to thank Commissioner Myers, Officers Gillespie and Warner for generating my interest to participate in the CPA program, also known as encouraging me after I said no, maybe, and finally yes, after sitting across from Officers Warner and Gillespie alone in the room. There were over 17 subject presentations in 2-hour sessions each week for 9 weeks by over 17 police officers who were excellent and very knowledgeable in their respective subject matters. It was very evident that they spent time to prepare their presentations, plus answering questions from the audience, such as me. It is, in my opinion, to note that none received no monetary compensation for their time, and to keep in mind these sessions are from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. every evening on Wednesday, therefore either coming off duty, going on duty, or resting after duty. The CPA helped me better understand what and how the Abington Police Department functions today, in addition to the challenges we all face in the future. One of the many things I took away from this program was that there is much more to realize, respect, and appreciate from the APD than just seeing a patrol car or a uniformed police officer in Abington Township. For example, here are a few: tactical unit, K-9 unit, patrol division, use of force procedures, accident investigation procedures, the detective division, the special investigation unit, and the critical incident stress management program that is here in Abington. Some of you, and maybe veterans, would associate with the post-traumatic syndrome. It's similar to that. I would encourage each commissioner to attend the next program, even if you cannot attend all the sessions, plus to encourage citizens in your respective wards to attend this program. A special thanks, again, to everyone who participated in the program, and a special thank you to Chief Kelly, who took the time to participate and to encourage this type of community police program. I will say one thing I also learned. At the public safety training facility, I really like the sign that they use. It says stop, and then underneath it, all the way. So maybe we ought to put that on all the stop signs in the township. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we know when the next one is going to, we probably don't have that date yet, do we?
It generally begins in the beginning of March and goes to the end of April.
Oh, it's always at the same time?
Yeah.
I didn't know you just did it once a year.
Wednesday evenings, so.
Thank you, thank you. Commissioner Myers?
Thank you. The first speaker actually brought up a good point, and Chief Kelly, this is a question for you. When people receive the notice of the ability to contribute to the pension, and the emergency card is enclosed with that, if people just return the emergency card, I'm going to assume it's treated like any other card. It's not contingent on anything?
Commissioner, obviously that's true, and all that's being done is trying to provide a service, save on mail, by just sending it out, so in case anyone has changes in their information that they want to send in, it's just there for their convenience, a reminder. You know how they go twice a year to remind you about changing the batteries in your smoke detectors and so on. That's all it was intended to do. And I think almost everybody in Abington knows that there's obviously no correlation between the two, and that to assume otherwise is foolish.
Thank you.
Commissioner Spiegelman and then Commissioner Khan.
Sorry, Commissioner Khan, you have to wait for me, but I'll be brief, fortunately. Just for a little historical, time to go get a sandwich. Just for a little historical perspective, and I'm not commenting, this is not an editorial on the first speaker's comments with regard to those emergency cards. When I was growing up in the 70s and 80s, a long time ago and a long way from here, the police department, the local ambulance corps, and the fire department sent out similar cards with their, pension association fundraisers, and we never thought anything other than it's just, it's a good way to kill two birds with one stone. You're already sending a mailing to every household, so you throw the card in there. Again, obviously, whatever the speaker's opinion is, that, none of my business. But just for historical perspective, excuse me. That's all.
Commissioner Khan.
Now, Commissioner Khan.
Thank you.
And I think it's fair to say, the fundraising they're doing is for the police association, the actual union pension, correct?
Commissioner, it's a separate pension. It's called a private pension fund.
Right.
It's run by citizens, and what we do is the money is now used for people who have retired long ago, who are living on a very, very small pension
Right.
that hasn't increased with the cost of living like Social Security does and things like that. And so that's that money is used for now.
So it's not, and I just want to make it clear that they're raising money for that private pension. The township's pension for the police is a separate situation. The township funds the pension with the police officers also contribute into that pension system. And just for everybody's edification, the township pensions, I think the police, the last I remember, is 93% funded based on the actuarial tables, and the non-union is somewhere around 88%, which is far and above most municipalities in the township. So there's two separate items.
This other pension fund is totally unrelated
Right.
to the township in the sense that it's a private organization run by private citizens, and it was originally started way back when the police pensions were very low, and police pay was very low, police pensions were very low, and it was a supplement to the township pensions. Now that things are certainly better and so on, that money, we've declined to accept that going forward, and instead that goes for those people who have such low ones because they retired so long ago.
Yeah, I just don't want people to get the impression, and I'm not saying the speaker said this because she didn't, but I don't want to get anybody get the impression that part of their tax dollars go to the township's pension system, that the money they would send into here is supplementing that. This is separate altogether, so.
Absolutely, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Any other comments from Commissioner Gillespie?
Thank you. Chief, aren't there some widows that back in the time that weren't entitled to the pension that if their husband died? Isn't that so?
That's exactly right, Commissioner. And because of that, those rules from back then, we have
Right.
some that are getting virtually nothing. Unfortunately, there's many benefits to the police and fire pensions, but there were some gaps
Back in the day.
that the average person wouldn't have if they had like Social Security instead. This attempts to fill those gaps
Right.
For those people who would be getting virtually nothing otherwise.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Hearing none, that concludes our meeting this evening.
Everybody's listening. All right. It is my pleasure to call to order the May 4th, 2016 Abington Township Public Affairs Committee meeting. And let us start with a roll call. Here.
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 Very good roll call. And per usual, we will start with our minutes. This is a motion to approve the minutes of the April 6th, 2016 Public Affairs Committee meeting, and I so move.
Second.
That's been moved and seconded. Any corrections, updates, spelling mistakes? Not see any, no. Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Aye?
Aye.
Ayes have it. And we have, once again, a special guest with us to make a presentation I think that's going to, everyone's going to find very interesting because it pertains to something that can be very helpful to our residents. So I would like to introduce Marion Stroup, the Montgomery County Outreach Coordinator for the Sunday Breakfast Rescue Mission.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you so much for inviting me to talk and let you know about the work that's being done here in Montgomery County for anybody that is in need of help. We have been in an office at the Abington Baptist Church now for a year, and our approach to outreach is different because we assist any individuals, families, homeless, or those struggling to keep their home. So it's not just homeless we work with. We work with people that are having problems for whatever reasons they may be. The Sunday Breakfast Rescue Mission was established way back in 1878 and is a faith-based nonprofit providing services in Philadelphia, Bucks County, and now here in Montgomery County. We cover all of Montgomery County. However, we concentrate our efforts mainly in southern Montgomery County, from Norristown down, because we find that there is really a gap down here with churches and organizations, small agencies and all, knowing all the ins and outs, because Montgomery County is rich when it comes to trying to help people with their problems, and especially now with the functioning of Your Way Home, which has become a real catalyst with trying to get housing for people struggling with homelessness or almost homelessness. We receive calls directly who have been referred to us from agencies, school districts, churches, and even from Commissioner Schreiber's office has referred people to us. And that's the way we work. A lot of times we have a relationship with Abington School District, and there's some of the counselors and all will have children give the information to their parents. They call me. We try to provide assistance by helping with utility payments if possible, rent, how to navigate the system if they're going to be homeless or about to be evicted and what can happen. Also, maybe they're not sure about where food cupboards are, or they don't know what other agencies are available in Montgomery County and might be close by. Not everybody can make it up to Norristown all the time. And that is one of the important things with us being down here and establishing our outreach in this area. We've established connections, though, in the last year with the Norristown Hospitality Center, the Salvation Army in Norristown, Your Way Home. We are members of the Bucks Montgomery Collaborative, the ICN Interagency Council of Norristown. We participate with the Community Assistance Consortium, CAC, that meets over at the Giant Willow Grove, which is a group of really nonprofits, churches, and the small agencies in eastern Montgomery County here. We receive calls mainly from people struggling to keep their place, keep the utilities on because of illness, job loss, or reduction of hours, or family emergency. And some of the stories that we've worked with is a woman who was called me who had received our phone number from Commissioner Shriver's office, and who has a husband who has Alzheimer's. And she needs to be with him all the time because he can get out, and she does not have all the funds available to her to be able to go out and work herself. So she was having a problem with her light bill. She was able to pay her rent and everything, but her light bill was starting to get enormous. And what we were able to do, we were able to pay the light bill off so that she could get into a budget with PECO, and now she's able to budget. Now, the husband, unfortunately, now they've moved, he's now getting hospice help because his illness has deteriorated so much. But then there was another lady, her name was Diane, and Diane had been a resident at this apartment complex for 4 years, but over the last 2 months or so, she was a nurse from an agency that went to a home, and two of her patients had passed away. So her hours have been reduced, and she wasn't able to make rent that month. So once again, I was able to contact the landlord, speak with the landlord, find out that, yeah, this is one of my regulars, that she's usually good with the rent. I never had a problem with her. We paid her rent that month because the following month her hours got to be picked up again, and she was able to go back and make the money she needed to make her rent. That's the kind of things we do. We work on an individual one-to-one basis that a lot of agencies aren't able to do because they're really overwhelmed with some of the people coming in for help and everything. And sometimes just little things like that, paying that utility bill or helping with the rent for that month, that's just what they need to keep going and maybe get back on some solid filling. We have established people refer to us from all over, as I said, and one of the people that we were working with was a couple that for 8 months lived in their car in the parking lot at Walmart in Willow Grove. Now, they were going, we helped them with sometimes staying in a hotel for a week or so. Eventually, they had to go into the shelter, but we were able to get them into the Your Way Home system. Now, it was hard sometimes for them because sometimes people that are experiencing poverty and stress have a difficult time going through the system and understanding all the requirements that they need to do, and they get overwhelmed by that. Sometimes their literacy is not the greatest, and they need help sometimes filling out the forms. What I was able to do because of the contacts I've been able to make in Your Way Home is that I've been able to talk with the housing manager, and I work with the housing manager, helping them to find a place that was suitable. And I'm happy to say that at the end of April, they finally were able to move into an apartment, and they're finally out of the car after all that time. So there's the success. I try to go beyond helping with just one specific problem. I look to develop relationships with each person. Now, sometimes that happens, sometimes it doesn't. And we know some people are just looking for you to solve that immediate problem and just get it, that's fine, leave me alone now, I'm fine. Or they don't want to look at what's causing them to have these problems. And it could be for a lot of reasons. And eventually, sometimes they're ready to come back because they keep finally realizing that they're having the same problems over and over again. Through meeting people throughout Montgomery County, I learned that a lot of people think the problems of homelessness, assistance, and even food insecurity only exist in certain areas of the county. but I'm here to tell you that I learned a lot in the last year. And some of the things that I learned was, according to Your Way Home, in 2015, their count was 123 families were homeless, and 342 individuals were homeless. And when I say homeless, it is a difference between a family and an individual. It's shelters being filled up. It's easier in the wintertime during Code Blue to find shelter space. But now that the weather's nice and Code Blue's over, there's limited shelter space. And now you get to see people more probably up towards Norristown or up there with the homeless out. But the homeless are everywhere. Couch surfing. People that are staying on people's couches, they're not even considered homeless and are not in this count because they've got a place to stay. According to the Census Department, the hourly rate that people need to make to afford a 2-bedroom apartment is $22.23 an hour. According to CAGCOM, which is the Community Action Development Commission, who helps out with a lot of different agencies underneath of them, 15% of the Montgomery County population experience food insecurity. There are 70 food cupboards in Montgomery County. 6 are in at least Abington Township that I've been able to find out about. People are struggling in eastern Montgomery County, and we see this through the Pennsylvania Department of Education. Homeless children in the year of 2014 to 15, Abington School District had 28 homeless children. Hashborough-Horsham had 42 homeless children. Cheltenham had 15 homeless children. Upper Moreland had 29 homeless children. And Upper Dublin had 19 homeless children. I thought they're just there. They're all over. Assistance to expand knowledge of what help is available is what I try to do. Now, what can we do now? What can we do to make things start to make things a little better? Well, right now we're coming into summer. There is a summer food service program that is available through the USDA, where organizations, churches, or agencies can become a sponsor. As a sponsor, the organizations must have a fully capable of managing the food service, the kitchen, but they can provide lunches and for children or people who are struggling with food insecurity during summer. During the winter, during school years, the kids have breakfast and they have this lunch during school. But when school's out, that's when they really can struggle. And I have the information with me with regard to that. I also, we're working, the Sunday Breakfast Mission is planning to hold a workshop and regional conference in October for small organizations and churches in the eastern Montgomery County area to provide information on what agencies are available in Montgomery County. You'd be surprised, how many people are not aware about Your Way Home and exactly the system that you need to go through in order to help. I'm getting phone calls right now with people that have to leave their apartments for one reason or another. They found another place, but they don't have the 3-month security. And so that's where Your Way Home can sometimes help. They'll help with providing the security, and they'll help with the first and second month's rent. But a lot of people don't know this. And a lot of churches, they have a secretary or an administrator. They're maybe there part-time. Somebody comes to the door looking for food. They're looking for clothes or something. A lot of churches now are able to hand my card out. I have postcards which I brought with me that you can take and start handing out too. And people call me and we go from there. So that's what we're doing right now. And hopefully we're able to build and grow on this in Montgomery County, especially down here in eastern Montgomery County, where I see a real need for this type of organization to work, because we're flexible. And I go out and meet people. I don't need people to come to me. I go to them. Thank you tonight. Thank you so much.
Marion, thank you so much. I'm sure actually several commissioners are probably going to have questions. If I can actually start. Just first of all, I know, having referred a number of residents to Your Way Home, either independently or via State Rep Dean's office, I know the intake process is very extensive and can be daunting. So the fact that all the work you've done helping bridge people through that process is, I really commend you. Is the State Rep's office and State Senator Haywood's office, are you connected with them? Are they aware of Sunday?
I can't honestly say. They might be, they might not. I know I was at a legislative forum last week where I was introduced and all, but I don't know if they have my information.
All right, we'll definitely get you connected. And my other question is, do you have either like any kind of email newsletter or presence on social media, a Facebook page?
Well, the organization downtown has that. We have a website. We have there is a Sunday breakfast on Facebook and everything. Yes.
Okay, because it's a great thing to get the word out, and I'm sure a lot of folks have questions. We'll start with the committee. Commissioner Fry.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming. As Marion said, we have worked together many times, and Marion has been a guest speaker to my Human Services class and is a real favorite of theirs because she answers so many questions that they have, so thank you for that. And as Marion mentioned, she has been both a bridge to several of my residents and an advocate for them with other organizations, so I've always appreciated how well you work with people, and you know, they just call you and you're there, so you're great. I'm, as you know, one of my main things that I've been worried about for the past couple years that I've been talking to different people about is the summer, what children are doing during the summer and when they don't have those free breakfast and lunch anymore. And so if somebody, well, I know Steve and I were just talking, but if there's a church or the VFW or a synagogue or someplace that has the kitchen, how would they end up getting the word out to the actual residents? Is that something that's been built into this, like through the school systems or?
Well, they have to go through the USDA, first of all, to be that gets them the food and everything that they would need to provide the meals. And then advertising and marketing we can provide lists, or the commission can even provide lists on your website. Also, I get the newsletters from several of the commissioners. I follow that, and I follow the on Facebook. So, and then churches would be another area that you can always get the information out on. But first of all, they have to qualify by the USDA. I don't think it's daunting, but you know, it's red tape and jumping through the hoops.
Is there any kind of deadline or anything that you're aware of?
Not that I saw on the site. It didn't look like there was a deadline.
Okay, great, thank you.
Commissioner Rothman, did you have that?
I just wanted to say thank you. I'll connect with you via Facebook or email so that I can help share your information, but thank you so much for what you do for our community.
Thank you. I love it.
President Luker.
First of all, the name of your organization, Sunday Breakfast Rescue Mission, I don't think does justice to all the things that you alluded to that your organization does. You're more or less more of a resource center because you do a lot more than the name that connotes. But for that, I just want to thank you very much. But you did make mention a few minutes ago of the office downtown. You're in Montgomery County, but you answered an office downtown. What is
the main office of Sunday Breakfast Rescue Mission is in downtown at 13th and Vine, where they operate a 180-bed shelter for men and have an overcomers program for men who are willing that want to change their lives and spend a year there. We also have a women's transitional home in Germantown that handles women single and with children. We also have a Bucks County outreach that is a thrift store and a furniture bank, and they do outreach as I do in Montgomery County. And we have a thrift store at Olney and Rising Sun Avenue, too.
Okay, so your central office was at
13th and Vine.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, just real quickly, I just wanted to mention that wasn't the organization just in the Sunday paper about a new program that they're doing with feeding the homeless?
Yes.
Do you want to talk about? I thought that was so interesting.
Yes.
It was in the Sunday paper this last Sunday.
In the Inquirer?
Yes, it was in the Inquirer. They're serving the meals now as a home style type meal, and see with the meals they serve meals three meals a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year down at our at 13th and Vine. You don't need to be in the shelter to receive a meal. You can go in there, you're hungry, you can get a meal. That's all the requirement. And what they've been able to do is they've been able to clean up and spruce up the dining area, and now it's set up as a family-style dining where you're sitting with people and you're passing the plates. And it helps promote community, helps promote people talking to one another, reaching out to one another. It's a great idea. It really is.
It was a nice article.
I'll definitely look for that. Commissioner Klein.
Yes. Once again, I'll echo the comments that everybody else made, but the information that you gave supplements the information that I also, last month at the County Planning Commission, we had a presentation by Joel Johnson of Montgomery Housing Authority, and the first part of his presentation to us was about the demographics and the economic information throughout Montgomery County, and we don't think about it in Montgomery County, most people probably don't think about it, but it exists, and the problem, if you look at the statistics throughout the last few years, the problem is growing and growing more rapid than it has in the past. So.
Yes, it is difficult. It is difficult. The average rent in Montgomery County starts at $900 a month.
That's right.
So, and think about trying to come up with 3 months of that up front just to get in.
And there's not enough public housing.
No.
The public housing stock is scarce at best.
Yes, but there's also things that I've learned about Section 8 housing too. That Section 8 housing, you get in and you've been given Section 8 housing. The rent might be $1,000 a month, and Section 8's giving you $500. You got to come up with the other $500, but you yourself personally must come up with the 3-month security. Section 8 does not help with the security deposit.
I did not know that.
Yes.
And it's not, and what do they call it? They don't even call it Section 8 anymore. They changed the name of it. I forgot what the name of it is.
Right.
So, but that's right. That was one thing that he was bringing up, is that even people that can make the rent or make the rent with the vouchers, a lot of people can't even get past the first step.
Right, exactly.
So, thank you.
Commissioner Myers.
If you said this, I missed it. How are you funded? And do the thrift shops, do they help fund your organization?
Yes, we're funded through donations and grants. We take no government money. That was decided many, many years ago, back in 1878. So we take no government funding. We're funded through donations and through the operations of the thrift shops and everything.
And are you nonprofit, 501c3?
Yes, we are a 501c3.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Marion, again, thank you so much. That was really extremely informative.
Thank you.
Definitely look forward to getting the information out to folks.
Would you leave that information with us?
Yes.
I have it, yes, I have it with me, yes.
Bring it up in a few.
Yes.
Yeah, make sure it'll definitely get passed out.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to talk.
That was a great guest speaker. Moving on, we have a regular guest for our Parks and Recreation Bureau report. I would like to call on Abington Community Task Force Award Citizens That Care Award winner, Doug Wendell, our Director of Parks and Recreation. Congratulations, Director Wendell, and welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate that.
How's the parks?
Parks are, a little underwater at this moment. We're hoping for some sunshine this weekend, and maybe they'll start seeing something other than puddles of water everywhere. Coming up soon, though, we have three particular events that are coming up soon that people may be interested in attending. One is our trip to Annapolis, Maryland. That's on July 16th. And that's a $50 cost for that. They go down to Annapolis, and it is a little more than half filled. So if you're interested in going, it's a good idea to get in touch with the office. The other one is the U.S. Open, which is the tennis championships. That's September 1st If you'd like to go with us and you want to get the ticket and the transportation, it's $125. If you already have your ticket, or you'd like to get a ticket there, which is possible, it's $40 just for the transportation. So it saves you a lot of driving in New York City, which is always a bit of a chore.
True.
The last thing is that Andy asked me to mention that spring programs are now being registered for, so if there's anything you're interested in our book or on our website, make sure you get in touch with us so that you can get on the list. And that was it.
All right. Thank you very much, Director Wendell. I believe Commissioner Rothman has a question for you.
Okay.
It's pertinent to me because unless I doubt my mom's watching this, but for Mother's Day, I'm going to be buying her. She and I will be going to the U.S. Open with you. Where do we sign up for that and send a check and all that, as I do have some residents that are also interested in possibly attending?
I would suggest they do it soon. Even though it is September, we only get 40 tickets, so it's important to get them soon. You can come to the Manor and sign up directly at Ablethorpe Manor, 515 Meeting House Road, 8 to 4, Monday through Friday, or you can mail it in. If you mail it in, you're taking a chance with the post service. I mean, I don't know how long it takes to get from wherever you're mailing it, but to come in the office is definitely more sure of a thing. And you only need to give us a deposit of half of it for the time being.
All right, we'll spread the word. Thank you.
Thank you.
Drew, do you know where Ablethorpe Manor is?
Is it? Do we know what ward that's in?
I might be able
Very near Ward 7.
I might be able to make my way over there.
It's where the art center is.
But thank you for your concern.
Thank you very much, Doug.
You're welcome.
Very nice meeting so far. All right, we're moving on to our actual agenda items. We're going to start with PA1, Resolution number 16-019, supporting a grant application to TCDI for Walk Park Train Abington. This is a motion to adopt Resolution number 16-019, approving Abington Township to submit an application to the Transportation and Community Development Initiative, TCDI. The grant submission will support the Walk Park Train concept of the Master Bike Plan, and I so move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Let's call on Manager LaFever. Have anything to say about this item?
Thank you, Commissioner Spiegelman. This is a grant opportunity that Assistant Township Manager Waymeyer has been working with our bike plan consultant, Simone Collins. Basically, a portion of the grant will be allocated to implementing a section of the bike plan not covered by previous applications we submitted earlier this year. But there's also two additional components. One, to identify gaps in our sidewalk system to promote pedestrian mobility, and also to study basically a quarter-mile radius around the train stations in the township to identify zoning opportunities to promote transportation-oriented development. The funding comes through the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission that funded our bike master plan. So I think they have a vested interest to see part of that plan implemented, and it positions us in a favorable position to gain funding. The resolution before you tonight is just to authorize staff to apply for the grant. We're not looking for a commitment on the grant. If we're successful, we'll come back to the board and ask for approval, and also for the township share, matching share. The board action form before you, I think, identifies a 20% match. I think the actual grant is for $100,000 with a $25,000 township support. But that'll be later if we are successful.
Right. Thank you very much. Certainly very interested in the quarter-mile radius around the train stations. Are there any questions from commissioners on the committee first? Commissioners in general. Commissioner Klein.
What's the application period?
It's, I believe, later this month, sometime this month.
And then they have time frame as to when you might
When we might hear?
from them?
I don't know off the top of my head, no.
And have we heard anything about the TAP grants that we?
We have not. We have submitted previously a TAP grant specifically for the bike plan and DCNR grant to supplement our match for that, and both those grant applications are pending.
All right. Questions from township staff? Audience? Name and address as always for the record, please. Thank you in advance.
Laura Lehman, 1431 Bryant Lane. So I just want to say that the juxtaposition here of all the money that we have available for the bike grants, it's a wonderful project. It really is. But what would be even more wonderful is that there were no residents in Abington Township that were homeless. So I personally would love to see that this township put its priorities always first, and that the people of the township absolutely came first. And I was struck when we were talking about that project with all of your concern about the people and the fact that they were homeless and the process is difficult and they can't get the monies for the down payments and so on. That's exactly what we reported to you was going on at the Colonnade. And it was happening because people here were not keeping the Colonnade within the laws of the township and the ordinances and regulations. So it was striking to me to hear your concern in that way, because not one person called me to find out. Well, actually, I think one person did, to find out who was suffering and what we could do about it to help them over there. Thank you. One person did.
Thank you for your commentary. All right. Let's go ahead and vote. All right. All in favor of PA1? Aye?
Aye. Aye.
All opposed? All right. PA1 has passed. PA2, Penn State Abington Township Scholarship Program Guidelines. This is a motion to approve the Penn State Abington Township Scholarship Program Guidelines, setting forth the purpose, criteria, requirements, guidelines, amount, timeline, and award of the $30,000 annual allocation, and I so moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Manager Lefevre?
Thank you, Commissioner Spiegelman. If I can give you just brief background on how we got to this point. You probably recall through the land development process for the Penn State dormitories, representatives of Penn State indicated that the township could expect to receive approximately $722,000 in permit and application fees if the dorm were to be approved. After it was approved, Penn State officials became aware that a majority of that $722,000 they were not legally obligated to pay as a state institution. They were exempt basically from permit fees. Nevertheless, the college is fully committed to make sure the township is held whole on that. There's no expectation or implication that the approval was anyway tied to those funding, but nevertheless, Penn State fully is committed to pay us those funds. The Township Solicitor's Office has been working with legal counsel for Penn State in drafting two agreements, a permit fee agreement for approximately $260,000 for fees they are required to pay, basically sewer permit fees, tapping fees, application fees. The remaining $460,000 would be a one-time impact fee. Penn State is basically looking for credit for funds they're currently paying the township. They presently pay us $70,000 a year for police overtime, for park maintenance, and for their share of the emergency management director, $70,000 in total. They hope to expand that by additional $30,000 for this program, the scholarship program. The remaining funds would be a one-time payment. Ideally, I'd like to come to you with both those agreements in place at the same time we enact the scholarship program, but unfortunately it hasn't played out that way. We're hopeful we'll have those two agreements for you in June, but the reason I'm bringing the scholarship program to you now is we're running out of time. If we hope to have the program for the next school year, starting in August, running through May, we need to hopefully approve it this evening. The concept of the scholarship program was raised by Dr. Sandler a couple years ago. Over the years, she's been approached by members of this board and members of previous boards that, rightly so, were advocates for residents of the ward that were in a difficult position meeting tuition needs at Penn State College. Unfortunately, over the years, the funds that she has available to allocate to those emergency situations has gotten more and more restricted. So she came up with the idea of coming up with a scholarship program where we could actually help Abington residents attending Penn State, primarily based on financial need, but not limited to financial need or income levels. They're certainly open to suggestions for any unserved groups such as disabled or returning veterans, actually middle-class families that are being squeezed out because they might not meet the FAFSA requirements for funding, but because of change in employment statuses or the number of children attending college are in difficult positions. So they're certainly open to that. Initially, when Penn State brought up the idea, they wanted the township to administer the program. We wouldn't have access to the funds, but we would accept applications, process applications, and actually select the winners. Early in the process, we realized that wasn't going to work for a number of reasons. Primarily, while we make a handful of people happy, we'd probably alienate 10 to 20 times that number of residents. And also, there'd probably be at least one resident that would question the methodology used to select the awardees and the integrity of the process. So we went back to Penn State and suggested, since they already have the infrastructure in place, they have people employed that do this for a living, they assume responsibility for processing the application and selecting the winners, and they've readily agreed to do so. They're looking for some connection with the township, so they asked that we would accept the applications, track what wards they're coming from, and over the years, which wards are successful in receiving them. Not that there'll be an even distribution because of income levels, there certainly will be a variation. The basic draft of the guidelines has been prepared internally by staff here with some changes by Penn State. The application form has been prepared by Penn State. I do have some concerns with the application process if the board doesn't, that I certainly want to bring up now, but certainly open up to any questions you might have. The basic structure of the program recommended is five $5,000 scholarships awarded for the school year, and $5,000 retained for emergency cases. In the event there were no emergency cases, they would consider allocating an additional $1,000 to those 5 applicants for possible books or other expenses, or to carry that money over to the following year. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward. We put a residency requirement that someone had to be a resident of Abington for at least a year before they would be eligible for consideration, to avoid the prospect of somebody just getting an apartment the month the application's open and grabbing some fun as a resident. The application that they suggested has a component where the township commissioners would sign off, support the application, and varying levels of support. And I just think that's problematic for a number of reasons. So I don't think that's necessary, nor I think you should be involved in offering maybe a blanket support to every application might be fine, but I don't think you want to offer a degree of support because, quite honestly, you're going to be blamed if somebody's not successful in getting an application.
Absolutely. Very sticky, yes. Very sticky ground to trod.
So other than that, it's a wonderful opportunity for an ongoing program to help some of our residents. I expect over the years it'll grow substantially. We're in a real tight time frame for this year because they want basically to accept applications the month of May, analyze them during the month of June, and for us to announce the awardees if they notify who they are at our July meeting. So they would apply to their accounts beginning in August. Future years would be a broader spectrum time frame for us to publicize it, but it might be a nice opportunity to work out the bugs of the program this initial year, if the board decides to go forward with it. So other than that, I'd be happy to open up to any questions.
I'm sure there are going to be questions. I have a number of questions, but I can save those. Just to clarify for the folks at home, the $30,000 for the scholarship program would be annual, whereas that specific $460,000 you mentioned is a one-time impact fee.
Well, the $464,000, $100,000 will be ongoing. $364,000 will be a one-time fee.
The $360,000, okay, good. Just wanted to make sure those numbers are clarified. All right, well, why don't we start with questions from commissioners on the committee? Commissioner Schreiber.
So the thing we're voting on tonight is the guidelines as they appear or as we're amending them, because, like you said, I totally agree with you that we should take out the part about the commissioner recommendations. So that's going to, when we vote on it, are we voting on it without that?
I'm going to basically take comment from the committee tonight, and assuming I've received some direction, we'll make those amendments. So for next Thursday evening, we'll have the revised draft before you, and we can go forward with the program. But that's one I would suggest.
Okay. That was one of my questions. We didn't really forget my other question. Did you also say that there is a financial stipulation to this, or there's not?
There is. I mean, they will identify people based on financial need. Will certainly be a component, but we raise the issue that they shouldn't neglect people for other reasons. If they can identify some segment of the population that's underserved, they certainly should be included in the process. So it won't be limited to those because of financial need.
A consideration, but not a limiting consideration.
And so other things like academic performance or community involvement, other things are being considered as well.
The disability is an example you mentioned, or returning vets. Yeah.
So all of that would be made clear to the people who are applying those
Absolutely.
guidelines.
Absolutely.
So they would, sorry.
Commissioner Kalas?
So they would contact you for a application for the grant process?
Penn State will publicize it internally for Penn State for the
Okay.
students. Hopefully, the commissioners are promoted in their email blasts or newsletters. We'd put it on our webpage and actually have a link where they could get to the application. And I'd be happy to accept the applications in my office and track which wards are coming from and turn them over to Penn State. But that would end our involvement, and they would notify us after they went through the review and the award process.
And the school district and other non-public schools within the township or even the surrounding area would be
Absolutely.
made aware, anywhere where there are students from Abington.
Exactly.
Be reasonably made aware. Commissioner Bowman?
I certainly agree, if you're seeking the comment of the committee, that the commissioner part should be excised from the application process. Thank you.
John?
Commissioner Kalamazoo?
I wasn't finished.
We'll go back and forth.
I guess the other thing, a minimum of 1 year. So a person could move into Abington, spend a year going to the school, and then apply for the application? I mean...
Well, we struggle with this
looking-
one.
What's that?
We struggle with that issue. I mean, what time frame should somebody be considered an Abington resident? But if a family were to come in and live here for a year, is that a fair
I
threshold?
don't have that as a family would come in and they're being a part of the community and the family. But if a student had come in and lived here for 1 year and then applied for that application.
Exactly. Now, if it's a student from, Western PA, and they're stopped for a year, that wouldn't necessarily make them eligible. It has to be a family living here in Abington. And we'd amend the application, basically identify how long they're a resident in Abington Township.
I guess my other comment would be $5,000 is not a whole lot of money for a student in college at Penn State. And the long run, I mean, maybe I'm looking at it differently, but
No,
that's the way I would look at it.
That's a good point, and it's not, when Dr. Sanders came up with the idea of the $30,000, I think she took the 15 commissioners in the mind, thinking it could be 15 $2,000 scholarships or any variation of that number. But Penn State basically limits their scholarships to about $5,000. Their actual tuition runs $13,000, almost $16,000 a year, depending on which year of the student. So $5,000 component of it, you're covering a third of the cost. It's a pretty significant portion.
I think my opinion would be an Abington resident giving the scholarship to that person would make a difference in their life and make a difference in the year that they've applied for that scholarship. So
And-
that would only be my opinion about that being at a bigger scholarship or a bigger grant.
Yeah, it's a question of how many people you want to help
I
versus.
agree.
One thing we did identify that structure, the $5,000 scholarships, is open to consideration or amendment by the Board of Commissioners in future years. If you find some other variation more effective, they're certainly receptive to that.
Can I just say something, though? If somebody is eligible for grants through FAFSA, they might just need that $5,000 as the piece over. So they're already probably getting grants.
Exactly.
Eligible for loans if they choose to go that route, which I'm not recommending, but, I mean, they probably have grant money already coming in if they're in that economic level. So the $5,000 might pay for additional things like their books or the piece of the tuition that they haven't paid.
Exactly.
It wouldn't be needed for the entire amount of their tuition.
A recipient of this grant wouldn't be precluded from receiving any other source of funding through the university or other state funding available.
Manager LaFever, as I know you and I have discussed, I concur that this is a good starting point, and we'll just, as just something we need to keep an eye on and evaluate how it's actually manifesting. But it seems like, to me, it seems like a reasonable starting point. Commissioner Rothman.
Michael, when are we going to see the application or the final approved criteria before we're actually on board with all of it?
You should have a draft before you this evening
Sure,
of the
but I mean,
application.
you said that there's
We'll
gonna
have
be
that
some
corrected.
changes.
Yes, we will have that corrected. Hopefully have it to you later this week, if not early next week.
Okay, I just want to make sure that before we
Absolutely.
take it another step
Absolutely.
further. And I also agree with Commissioner Bowman as to removing the commissioners from that process in the way you've mentioned.
Thank you. Indeed. Anybody else on the committee before we brought it to commissioners in general? All right, Commissioner Sanchez.
Thank you, Director Spiegelman. Just a clarification, Manager LaFever, on the numbers. This isn't actually going to be netted against those permit fees, is that right? Or is the university now asking that has, I think you mentioned we had the permit fees that.
Of the $464,000 component of the permit fees, they're looking for a credit of $100,000 that they will be contributing on an annual basis. So for this 1 year, $100,000 will be part of the ongoing contribution. The other portion, the remaining 364, will be a one-time fee.
Okay.
Okay. So basically, they're expanding by 30% what they're currently paying us, a little more than 30% what they're currently paying us, and they'll continue to do so in the future.
Got it.
Any other questions or comments from commissioners? Commissioner Kalinowski.
I'll just make one more comment. I think this is a win-win situation for Abington and Penn State, and I really appreciate them bringing that to us, so let it go with that.
Well, thank you kindly. Not that I had anything to do creating it.
I see what's going on.
All right, township staff and residents.
Laura Lehman, 1431 Bryant Lane, and I am never disappointed if I expect to be amazed. I just don't understand how you have the ability to tax me so that you can set up labor to run a scholarship program and an entertainment program and all of the rest of it. We are, this is one of the things that America is so angry about. They're angry about people taxing them to do whatever they want to do. And these scholarships will go to specific people and likely to the people who are most connected, or they'll become connected through the scholarship. That's how some of that works, and you know it does as well as I do.
No, actually, I'm sorry. I need to pipe in. That first of all, that
My
allegation
my comments right
is
now, Mr.
absolutely
Spiegelman.
asinine.
Mr. Spiegelman?
I said it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very good.
I said
But-
it.
But these are my comments, not yours, okay? So what I want to say is, the right to tax us to do whatever you want to do, and you're moving rocks around and chairs around and things for other nonprofits, we're doing all kinds of things that really are not the public business that benefits everybody in the township. And I'm not quite sure when we have a police department who on videotape at a public meeting, standing right here, said to the public that they don't have enough manpower to investigate all the crimes. And we don't have enough manpower to take care of all of the flooding issues. And we don't have, so we can't pave all the roads. We don't have that money or those funds or that personnel. And people were told one time that they should be patient with their code enforcement issues because we only had one inspector. After that, fortunately, we got two. Somebody saw the light. But we have issues here that are running the government, and you are taking on whatever you feel like taking on at the expense of our pocketbooks. And I think this is absolutely wrong. This belongs in a private organization where the funds coming into the organization pay for the labor, not the township residents paying for the labor to run it, to be the treasurer, to set up the forms, and so on. And then if that exists from a private organization and you blast it out to the people in your list and say it's available, that's wonderful. But you don't have the right to charge them to run that. That's what I would object to. That's my tax money, and my township personnel are paid by my tax money. So I would like not to see this kind of thing happen. Thank you.
I know there's some commentary. I'm going to just no, please. You're finished.
Yeah, I am finished, but I would ask that before you answer for everybody, that you take the comments that I said and you go back to your ward and find out how your people feel about that, and that you find out how the other commissioners feel about that, instead of just countering anything that you feel like countering.
Thank you for your commentary and your advice. I take everything back to the folks I represent, but first I'm going to need to parse through the baffling layers of inaccuracies in what you just said. What we're talking about, and I know Manager Lefevre and your commissioner, Commissioner Klein, have some comments. I'll be very, very brief with this. But this is a program that is not, no one's taxing anybody, and no one's paying taxpayer dollars to run this program. This is something that Penn State Abington is providing. I mean, the only time taken is basically for Manager Lefevre to gather some applications and hand them to Penn State Abington. They are the ones running. That's 5 seconds of Manager Lefevre's time. I promise. We'll make sure Manager Lefevre does not get paid for the 15 minutes that it takes him to shuffle papers from here and hand them to Penn State Abington. I could go on, but, okay, well, your opinion is well known. I'm going to start with Manager LaFever and then Commissioner Klein. Manager LaFever.
Commissioner Spiegelman, you did clarify my...
You're not on the
point.
clock now. This is free. This
Thank
comment
you.
is free.
And perhaps I didn't explain it correctly, but you're absolutely right. There are no township tax dollars involved in any way. These are Penn State funds. It's being administered by Penn State. As to my time, I assure you, it'll only be a small fraction of the amount of time I spend emailing and answering questions from one particular resident of the town that greatly exceeds any time that will be allocated to this program.
Thank you. Commissioner Klein, you have to top that in wit, Commissioner Klein.
I'm not going to top it in wit, but I think it's mind-boggling because we actually struggled with just part of what the speaker said, which was to try to keep the board and the politics or small p politics, whatever it is, out of the situation. And the committee members and some of the other commissioners just talked about striking out the recommendation aspect of for just such that reason. I mean, I'm not sure she understood everything that was put in front of her. So who's to say?
Okay, there's a comment period at the end. Any other anything to add, Mr. Bell? Come on down.
Raymond Bell, 2076 Parkview Avenue. I just have a question. The statement that Penn State said that the township's going to evaluate the student that gets the grant. How is that going to happen? How do you evaluate that without privacy issues coming up?
We're not going to, and we realized that very early in the process, that we weren't equipped to actually process these applications and have a set methodology to determine a priority for recipients. So we turned that back over to Penn State. They have the infrastructure in place already. They have employees full-time that handle this process in their admissions office, in their financial aid office, so they're going to handle it 100%. We're just going to collect the applications, collate them by ward, and turn them over to Penn State.
Thank you. Go Penn State.
Mr. Bell, thank you for that, bringing up the privacy issue. Thank you. That's actually very germane. All right. Let's vote on this. All in favor of PA2?
Aye.
Opposed? PA2 is passed. That concludes our formal agenda, and you know what, actually, I have, you know what, I'm going to break the fourth wall for a second, totally unscripted, but I'm sorry, I have to, given, in light of the first speaker's comments, I can only imagine what's coming from me in future letters to the editor in the Times Chronicle. But I just have to point this out, because I guess I consider this a strange point of pride. In a recent letter to the editor, the speaker, who often complains about personal attacks, personal slams, as they're often termed, referred to me personally by name as the worst of politics. So, for the home viewer, I don't know. Maybe they'll agree. But I guess I just felt compelled to share that. And now, any comments on the general topics of Public Affairs Committee?
I think most of us found ourselves agreeing.
Everybody. All right.
Was that a solicitation for response to that?
All right. Name and address for the record, please.
I'm sorry, Laura Lehman, 1431 Bryant Lane. I'm sorry, Mr. Spiegelman, Commissioner Spiegelman, that you didn't share with them what exactly I said was the worst of politics. And it was about using your position as chair of public affairs, which is the place where residents have to go to deal with the issues and how they feel about things. And I thank you for tonight showing so many ways that you are abusing the use of that chair and actually taking residents' comments and using them to put your own adverse opinion out there, rather than going back and seriously understanding if there are other people that feel that way. If you feel that way, that's fine. Negate everything the speaker says from your chair. That's absolutely against the rules of most chair person's rules that they have. They are not supposed to counter. They're supposed to be impartial when they're in the chair. And if they have a comment, they're supposed to leave the chair and have somebody else chair. Did you know that? I think you read Robert's Rules of Order, and I think you probably do know that, but you don't respect it. And it's the lack of respect that the residents receive in this township that is the worst of the politics. And it is the politics that are played that is actually the problem in this township. In fact, last time I came to you with an issue, and I said that the township manager had actually told me that there were no documents whatsoever for a $56,000 project. And the response was for me in every way possible to be cut off, shut up, don't say any more, I'm going to gavel you. That gavel was in the air the whole time from the person chairing the meeting at that time. That is an attempt to bury the serious issues that are going on. We did have an answer that there were no documents. And then, after I persisted and said that's ridiculous that there's no documents, certainly there's at least minutes to the meetings and so on, documents did appear. Okay? And then I was told that the solicitor had things. Okay, so I shouldn't have been told there are no documents. I might have been told there was an RFP and that it was at the solicitor's office, but I was not told that initially. I was simply told there were no documents responsive to my request. That kind of behavior is what we're trying to stop. Already I've had to go to appeal, and you're all very quick to say, there's a process, just go appeal it. That costs the township and every taxpayer in Abington money. The lawyers are involved, the township manager has to spend God's amount of time, and I also have to spend a great amount of time. And it's unfair, it's not right, and it needs to be changed. And it should be changed from your chair as head of public affairs. And so you are being asked. And that announcement that I sent around tonight about the Abington Police Pension Association, all of you know that it is designed to look like it comes from Abington. And in fact, the card that's attached to it is from Abington Township Police. So literally, we have an attempt to make it look like it's coming from the police, okay, and not from a separate association. And you easily could be responsive government officials and fix that. You could say, please put on here, this is you just have to have a line up there that says this is an independent organization and not associated with the Abington Township Pension Fund. Okay? It's very simple to do, unless all you want to do is say, I disagree, go sit down and shut up. And I'm here in order to say that what this podium is for is to share with you what's happening with your residents in the township, and for you to please consider fixing it because their lives are affected. We have many, many things, many residents whose lives have been affected in dire ways, and I actually would invite you all again to call and find out about some of those lives because nobody's called, except, as I said, on the colonnade, one person did and never followed through. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your commentary. I'm certainly not going to. We would be here for hours were I to try to parse that. I will say a couple of things. Ms. Flamen, you are finished. I will tell you, there is a certain partiality I have, and that is to the truth. And when there are wild inaccuracies put forth, I am compelled by my own moral and ethical code to pipe in. If that's an abuse of this chair, so be it. Frankly, in my opinion, the only abuse of this chair is my massive girth on this poor, innocent chair. Other than that, I really don't know. I don't see that I am abusing the chair. I will comment because this is actually a quick answer vis-a-vis the other night. And Manager, thank you. Manager Lefever's comment. Manager Lefever commented on the email that you cited. He clarified his comments, and yet And yet, and yet you come back as if that part never happened. See, I think the issue with the podium, when you are at the podium, is that everything you do is predicated on this assumption that you are somehow the arbiter of what's really going on in the township and how the people feel. And you frequently use the pronoun we, and yet all I see is you. So it's rather presumptuous to assume that you are the arbiter of everything going on in the township, and moreover, that in order to maintain contact with our residents and know what's going on with our residents, we need to call you. I reject that notion. Does anybody else want to say anything? Because otherwise, I think we're going to adjourn.
You said it all.
Please let that be on video, because that's pretty false.
I can't believe he just said that. Like, I
Good night. See you tomorrow morning.
Liz, you have a good night?